Okay. Hi. And welcome. Starting the Great Ace Attorney 2 today. I thought that today was one day further in the week than it actually was. When I was talking about it yesterday, I mean. And so, yeah, we're gonna be starting this today. We're gonna continue it tomorrow. And then, there will be a break day in between. Hey Taco, how are you doing? And I am 100% blind to this game. I know almost nothing about this game, which is fantastic for Ace Attorney.
Standing here in the bright sunshine, looking out over the vast ocean. Those days in London seem like a dream. But I do miss my time in England's vast capital. You know, he's flourished into a truly wonderful lawyer. I've no doubt that at this very moment, he's fighting some noble cause in court. Forgive me for taking so long to come to visit you. My life has been such a whirlwind since I returned. And no one could have predicted what has happened. Just 2 months after arriving home.
Oh, shit.
So I came here today to ask something of you. Tomorrow, I shall be standing in court. For the only time in my life. As a lawyer. So please, I ask for your guidance. Kazuma-sama.
Wow. This started off with a bang. There's so much there.
Here I am again after 9 months. The Supreme Court of Judicature in Japan. I feel so nervous, but I must still my nerves and find a way to compose myself.
Ah, good, you're here. Doesn't do for a lawyer to be late.
Oh, yes, good morning, sir.
Hardly recognize you. You got a fine figure, Counsel. You look as white as a sheet. And those wide eyes aren't doing you any favors either.
Oh dear. The truth is, I'm so incredibly nervous. I feel utterly nauseated. I almost wish that I'd never been born.
Yes, not the sort of thing a father hopes to hear from his daughter, I must say.
Yujin Mikotoba, professor of medicine at the Imperial Yume University. A man who earlier in his life traveled to Great Britain to study the latest advances in forensic medical science. And of course, my brilliant father.
Excuse me.
Oh. Excuse me. Would I be correct in thinking that you're to be my lawyer in court today? Yes. Yes, that's right, miss. Well, I want to thank you for agreeing to represent me. I swear on my life. It's a complete fabrication, this whole thing.
gonna take me a little bit to de-rust, but...
Ray Membam...
Ray Menbami?
Ray...
Oh. I get it. I get it.
Ray Membami. Born the same year as I, and my greatest friend. Though unusual for a woman in our time, she works at the university research laboratory helping my father. And sadly, she's the defendant in today's trial. Accused of committing a truly awful murder. Are you feeling alright? Since we started talking, you seem, well, to become a little flushed. Oh my, well, it's just that you look so gallant and dashing. I'm sorry. And when I fall under your intense gaze, it makes me feel rather bashful.
She gay. She has the gay.
Goodness. I don't think she knows. She hasn't realized who I am.
It would seem our little plan for this trial is going to work.
Oh, what do you mean, Professor Mikotoba?
If even your best friend can't see through the disguise, I think we can relax.
Disguise? Yes, I've never tried dressing this way before, of course, so I wasn't sure how convincing it would be. But this does make me feel a little relieved, as you say, Father. Father? Is that you, Susato? I'm so sorry I didn't say No! What are you doing? What's going on? What? That varsity uniform, that varsity cap, that varsity cape, that varsity badge. Look at you. You look for all the world just like a student of the Imperial Yume University. A male student. I'm so glad you think so. It means all my preparations have been worthwhile. I woke at 4 this morning to make a start. But I don't understand. Why are you dressed like that? Well, you see...
It's the only way. Only way she would be permitted into the Supreme Court to take on your defense in this trial.
My defense? Never before in my life have I felt so frustrated at having been born into this body. Courts in Japan are barred to women. We're not even allowed to set foot inside the courtroom. Despite the fact that the laws of the land apply to all people, male and female alike.
Yeah, this was a plot point established in the first game.
But women are forbidden. And just for today, I'll be leaving my true self at the courtroom door, so that I can act as your lawyer. Oh, Susato, you'd go to such lengths for me? Of course, you're my greatest friend. I just worry that I shan't be the lawyer you deserve. Oh no, I have complete faith in you. Ray.
It feels good to be back doing voices.
It's so strange, though. I mean, you're such an accomplished judicial assistant already. And yet, just because you're a woman, what a wretched reason. I mean, why shouldn't you be allowed in court? You're so gallant and dashing. Ray. Please don't look at me like that, with those flushed cheeks and dotting eye-
Is that dotting or doting? Doting. Well.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's just, you really do look so dashing. Yes, you mentioned that once or twice.
Should be pleased. Means you look convincing as a man. No, it just means that she's gay.
I am pleased, I think. It certainly helped to bolster my confidence today. Ray, you're managing to put up a brave face in all this, but I can see through it. I've noticed how your shoulders are slumped, how you're trembling ever so slightly. Susato, you do believe me, don't you? I didn't do it. I couldn't have. I mean, murder. Of course. You have nothing to worry about. Your conscience is perfectly clean. Isn't that right? Yes. Yes, it is. Perfectly clean. I have absolutely no doubt in my mind about your innocence. Which is why I'll stand by you until the bitter end in this trial. Whatever happens, I'll always be on your side. Because that's what it means to be a defense lawyer. That means so much to me, Susato.
Attendant, counsel, court is about to begin. Wow, I just realized that I just accidentally did like a pitched up judge voice. Proceed to the courtroom at once. Go in at once, Ray. Late, the judge won't hesitate to pronounce you guilty.
Oh. Stand aside. I don't think I've ever seen her run so fast.
Well, Susato, you've certainly surprised your father. To such lengths to be admitted into the courtroom. No prior experience of being a lawyer. I'm slipping into judge voice for him, too.
There was simply no other way. That's all there is to it. But, Father, you haven't told her, have you? I mean, I'm right in assuming that Ray doesn't know how it came to this.
Yes, quite right. I'm gonna change Mikotoba's voice. I don't actually remember what voice I gave Mikotoba, because he's literally only in the first case of Great Ace Attorney 1, if I'm not mistaken. That's quite right. I've kept that information from her. Only worried her if she found out that no other lawyer would agree to take her case. I didn't want to burden her with that.
And is it true? The reason why every other lawyer is refusing to take the case. Is it really because of who the victim was?
She'd be making a move now, too. As you know, law isn't my field, but I'll do what I can to support my student.
Thank you, Father. I'm Susato Mikotoba, a judicial assistant. 8 months ago, I accompanied a student of law on a study trip to Great Britain. But 2 months ago, due to unforeseen circumstances, I found myself back in Japan.
Also, if I'm not mistaken, the reason that Susato got sent back to Japan was that her dad fell ill, so it's nice to see that he's, like, alive.
How many times have I wished that he were here, I wonder. And still, I have no choice now but to steel myself for the trial ahead. Wish me luck, Naruhodo-san.
This court is now in session to hear the trial of Ray. Remember me.
The prosecution is fully ready to proceed, Your Excellency.
Okay, this outfit looks good on her. I like that. Defense counsel, are you ready? Yes, Your Excellency, we are ready.
Ready.
Yes, counsel. According to your registration details, your name is, Ryutaro Naruhodo. Is that correct? Trying to remember, that a reference?
Sorry?
Yes, I had to come up with a suitable male name for you for this little venture. I'm afraid to say I simply put down the first name that sprung to mind. Well, Council?
Yes, that's right. That's me. Yes, I am Ryutaro. He who has vowed to uphold the pride of the great Naruhodo clan.
Ah. Seems Ryutaro may need to consider how better to uphold his manly act first, and would overdo it. Those wide eyes aren't doing you any favors either. Just relax and listen.
Naruhodo.
A fresh face in this courtroom, if I'm not mistaken. But the name Naruhodo, would that perchance be?
Thinking of Ryunosuke Naruhodo, currently in Britain as part of a study program. This is,
His cousin.
That's right, Ryutaro here has been studying in the provinces, but was called to the capital for this trial. I assure you, in matters of law, his knowledge rivals that of any of Tokyo's preeminent lawyers.
Any of them.
What a pitiful situation. Having been rejected by every lawyer in the capital, the accused has had to call in a country boy.
How dare you! Susato is every bit as gallant and dashing as any of your Tokyo attorneys. I won't have you making fun of her.
Her?
Oh, Please be careful, Ray.
What an unrefined tomboy we have here. But I wonder, is your gallant and dashing lawyer up to the challenge of defending you? His wide, skittish eyes very much suggest that he is not.
I'm so nervous. Now that I'm standing in his shoes, I'm starting to understand what Naruhodo-san goes through. Like it or not. Eyes are want to flit. Oh. Eyes are want to flit.
Just like it or not, my eyes are going to, like, bounce around because I'm nervous. Case to be heard on this day is a matter of great significance to our national interests. In fact, it would be reasonable to assume that the outcome of this trial may well very affect the future of our empire.
Just like the trial 9 months ago. Yet for proceedings of such importance, we have this unknown yokel by the dock. Dear me.
Perhaps this would be an appropriate moment for me to assess the defense. Determine whether you are sufficiently competent to practice in this courtroom. 9 months ago, a certain other Naruhodo stood where you're standing now. Professor Mikotoba's voice has been all over the place. The same judge tested him as well. Even though he was just a student at the time, not even of law, he passed the test with flying colors. Hey Sachi, how are you doing? Susato and her wife time, yeah. Train an experienced judicial assistant like you, this will be easy. Oh, counsel, you consent to answering some simple questions? She looks so good in that outfit.
Alright, it's time to prove myself.
She does the same thing as Ryunosuke.
Yes, Your Excellency. But please do make them simple.
Happy AGDQ week. Very well, to start with, we'll state the name of the victim.
Phew, that's simple. I couldn't forget that if I tried.
Matter.
Now that I'm standing in his shoes, I'm starting to understand something else Naruhodo-san goes through.
Cassette beast speedrun? Nice.
Like it or not, minds are wont to blank.
It's not surprising, really. It's your first time in this position. And in that guise, a bright spark like you is bound to flicker and falter under, a little under the circumstances.
Oh dear, this is a dismal failure.
Right, you need only use the knowledge you've gained as a judicial assistant to overcome the problem.
Of course, the court record. Yes, the answer will be amongst all the key information about the case in the court record.
That's right, just use R to open the court record. Up to the people section, yep. Take too long over it. His Excellency is watching you closely. Hey, Mr. Shins, how are you doing? Do you ruin your sleep schedule and stay up till 1 to watch the speedrun?
Alright, check the court record with R. That's where the information I need will be.
I'm waiting, counsel. It's Giselle Brett, right? Yeah. Susato's, best friend. Also, I like Ray's pun name. I'm waiting, counsel. What is the name of the victim in this case?
Yes!
She's doing the same thing as Ryunosuke.
The name of the victim who lost her life in this case is Miss Giselle Brett. Giselle Brett.
Name that will never be forgotten in the courtrooms of our country, I'm sure. Correct. Being a member of our empire's judiciary, you will be well aware of the significance of that name. So, let me pose another simple question. As you know, Miss Brett was a visiting student from the Empire of Great Britain. Why then is her name indelibly associated with our own empire's judicial history? Obviously, you won't have forgotten that case from 9 months ago. If it's proving hard to recall the finger points, minor points, you need is included in the court record.
Obviously, I still remember. That was the start of everything. Giselle Brett. Behind the woman student's persona was the face of...
Queen Victoria. Time of death. Cause of death. Single deep stab wound from behind, piercing a lung and resulting in fatal hemorrhage. Death would have occurred within minutes. Extreme meiosis. Pupil constriction was observed in the victim in both eyes. Interesting.
Yes!
9 months ago, a visiting professor of medicine at the Imperial Yume University was killed. And the culprit was Giselle Brett.
Yes. It was a killer. Sorry, give me just a sec. Who is this that's speaking? At the time, our country had just signed a new treaty with the Empire of Great Britain. Hey, Banana, how are you doing? It was in the midst of this delicate diplomatic situation that the incident occurred. Englishman, Dr. John H. Wilson, was shot dead. I believe he was an associate of yours, Professor Mikotoba. Wait, what? This isn't Professor Mikotoba. This is supposed to be Mikotoba talking. Yes, I was indebted to the man. Been my mentor when I went to London to study forensic medicine. Indeed, it was I who invited him here to Japan as a visiting professor at the university. Naturally, the murder of an Englishman on our soil was a matter the government wished to resolve rapidly. It was, which is why a secret trial was conducted here at the Supreme Court. A student of the Imperial Yume University was arrested on suspicion of murder. A second-year English language student by the name of Ryunosuke Naruhodo. With the help of his best friend, a student lawyer, the accused conducted his own defense. Exposed the despicable crime committed by the Miss Giselle Brett. They've got Kingdom Hearts stuff as GDQ prizes. Miss Brett eventually admitted to her crime. However, when questioned about the motive that drove her to take Dr. Wilson's life, she gave no satisfactory answer before the trial reached its conclusion.
Immediately after the trial, the British government brought its consular jurisdiction into play. We were unable to sentence Miss Brett according to our empire's laws. It was decided that she would be removed to Shanghai, China instead.
Why Shanghai?
It's a British consular court there. Why is the word consular, consular, so hard for me to say? Correct. Oversaw the negotiations personally. The date of her transfer to Shanghai was finally settled upon only last week. All that remained of our empire's obligations was to see the woman safely on board the steamship.
And yet, the very day before her departure, the Englishwoman was killed.
Only the day before.
It will do. I'm satisfied that the counsel for the defense is sufficient. That will do. I'm satisfied that the counsel for the defense is sufficiently capable of representing the defendant. Wow, that is a mouthful of sentence.
Oh. Thank you, Your Excellency. Over the first hurdle.
Now, a summary of the incident, if you please. Prosecutor Ouchie.
As is your wish, Your Excellency. The repugnant crime took place on the 11th of August in broad daylight. On the outskirts of the Imperial capital, under a bright blue sky at a secluded bathing spot by the sea. The incident occurred inside a small beach hut, erected for bathers to rest or change their clothes. Cause of death was a single stab wound to the posterior abdomen that pierced the victim's lung. An injury which proved fatal. There were two persons, alone together in the beach hut at the time of the victim's death. Miss Brett, in her bathing attire, and the accused, Remember Me. Accordingly, there can be no doubt of the accused's guilt, especially when we consider she had powerful motive. The police arrived rapidly at the scene and promptly arrested the young lady.
Ouchie's voice just, like, degrades as I continue speaking. Sorry about that. Still trying to de-rust a bit. Ouchie's voice doesn't matter that much, it's just Ouchie. Well, extraordinary description of events. Leaves me somewhat lost for words, I must say.
That's certainly true. The prosecution's summary was full of words that raise an awful lot of questions. As a lawyer, I really ought to pick up the prosecution counsel on what he said about
Powerful motive.
You're clearly exaggerating. Powerful motive is a blatant overstatement.
Is the yokel boy using long words he doesn't fully understand?
I beg your pardon?
No matter. Let us put this to the accused, shall we?
The prosecution summary was full of words.
Remember me, son. You're a research assistant at the Imperial Yume University, I believe.
Yes, I am. I'm working with Professor Mikotoba in his laboratory at the moment.
I can confirm that. The defendant is an excellent assistant, with a strong sense of responsibility.
Fascinating to hear. Now another question. Prior to your work with Professor Mikotoba, whose research were you assisting then?
Oh, well, I was studying under Dr. John H. Wilson.
Dr. Wilson, visiting English professor who was murdered by Miss Brett 9 months ago.
The accused had a deep-seated respect for her former mentor, Mr. Wilson, or Dr. Wilson. Mr. Dr. Wilson. Is that not true?
Yes. Dr. Wilson was a wonderful man.
Interesting. Then tell the court what deep-seated feelings you had toward the Englishwoman who killed him.
Well, obviously I was filled with hatred for what she'd done. A powerful hatred. Oh no, Ray. Be careful of what you're saying.
The motive was revenge. Plain and simple, Your Excellency.
Well, it was clearly a trap all along.
How wicked of him to use Ray's undying respect for her former mentor against her like that. I must find out more details, and something we can use to bolster our defense. As a lawyer...
Yep, okay, this is the same. Being alone together.
Remember me, son. Yes? What is it, Susan? I mean, Naruhodo-san. I'm really starting to wish we'd made my alias Ryutaro Susato. And please tell the court why exactly you were present at the bathing spot with the victim in the first place. And why you were alone with her. Oh, well, no, that's not true. It wasn't like that at all. There were other people present. A detective who was guarding Miss Brett, for starters. I was just asked to accompany Miss Brett as a companion, that's all.
But let us be clear. At At the moment of her death, you were alone together with the victim in the hut. You and no one else. The truth is, there's only one reason why this young woman accompanied Miss Brett on her bathing sojourn. It was the accused's last chance to take the victim's life.
Lettuce isn't clear, it's green, dickhead.
No.
Because, as we know, the following day would see Miss Brett extradited to the British authorities in Shanghai. And the accused would never have the opportunity to dispatch her again.
Kindly refrain from conjecture, Counsel.
Execution Council seems to enjoy using provocative tricks like that. But for now at least, we need to assemble more facts. Try not to let him go to you.
Oh dear. This really is terrifying, but Father's right. We need more information. As a lawyer, I really ought to pick up the prosecution
Yep, the same.
If I may, Prosecutor Ouchie.
What do you want, you fresh-faced young yokel student?
I wonder, could you explain, please? You mentioned a bathing spot.
My apologies. Clearly my modernity,
I've never known how to pronounce this word.
has confused the poor country bumpkin's simple mind. Bathing spots are the very latest trend in health practices from the West. We're told that bathing in the water of the ocean is curative, therapeutic, and excellent for the skin's...
No, that's not what I meant.
I don't think Ouchie bathes at all.
I was referring to the fact that Miss Brett had, to all intents and purposes, been found guilty of murder. Why would a known criminal have been relaxing by the sea?
For old time's sake, I believe.
Sorry?
Miss Brett was to depart for Shanghai the following day. Her final wish, as it were, was to enjoy a day at our country's wonderful coast. And the British Embassy put extreme pressure on our government to comply.
But on what grounds would we agree to such a request?
As is usual, our government is unable to stand up to foreign powers. In matters of diplomacy, it seems we don't have the courage to decline the whims of a known criminal.
Don't look at me, Professor. It was the government who granted permission, not I. In any case, it was decided that with a dedicated detective on duty, nothing could go wrong.
Did you say that before it happened?
But in fact, a murder took place.
I said don't look at me. It was that young student girl who did it, not I.
No one has proved that yet.
Provoke the man if you don't need to. I wonder if this case is going to be as long as the first case from Great Ace Attorney 1. Because the first case in Great Ace Attorney 1 is long. I believe we have a clear picture of the incident now. Despite her guilt being determined 9 months ago, Miss Brett managed to avoid incarceration, instead continuing her research work at the university. Obviously, over that period, she and Ray would have encountered each other on a number of occasions.
And seeing the murder of the mentor for whom she had such great respect and showing such undeserved liberty, that's a mouthful of a sentence.
Yes, even if it was only temporary until Miss Brett's extradition to Shanghai. Hardly blame Ray for her feelings of anger and resentment.
Poor Ray.
So, Your Excellency, if you'd be so kind as to peruse this exhibit. A photographic print that shows the scene of the crime, immediately following the grim incident.
Yes, thank you, Counsel. Tragic image.
As you can clearly see, there's nowhere within the hut that anyone else could have hidden.
But we'll accept this photographic print as evidence. As I understand it then, the victim and the defendant were alone inside the beach hut at the time. This is deeply troubling, I must say. The finger of guilt points firmly at the defendant.
Well, Your Excellency, naturally the prosecution has much more to its case. We intend to prove the accused's appalling actions beyond all possible contention. To that end, I can confirm that we have multiple witnesses to the crime, and damning evidence.
Witnesses? But who?
One of whom, I might add, is a highly respected police detective.
Oh, is it frickin'... Is it him? Is it him?
I assure you, the testimony of these witnesses will leave no room for doubt.
I'm forgetting his name. The guy from Great Ace Attorney 1 who is in the first two cases. Well then, counsel, bring forth your witnesses.
I, Taketsuchi Ouchi, have been waiting for this moment.
Sorry?
Oh yes, I haven't forgotten. That trial 9 months ago here in this very courthouse. When that irreverent little student boy utterly humiliated me. Ryunosuke Naruhodo?
Yes?
This insult to the Ouchi family name will never be forgotten.
Become conceited with age, counsel. The old have to stand aside and make way for the new. It's the way of the world. May you never forget that. He left his top knot cut open just like that.
Strike the head of a samurai whose top knot has been cut. The bell of cultural enlightenment tolls. Yes, on that fateful day, my former self died.
The start of your own mini Meiji revolution. Are you modernizing as well, Counsel?
Silence. Since I swore revenge back then, there's been a minor miracle atop my head. Observe the Ouchi growth.
Don't say that. Don't call it that.
You see, this is the seed of hope sprouting forth from the barren expanse of my crown.
I think that tiny growth is trying to tell me something. I'm afraid I can't really see. Where's the hope exactly?
I said silence. Today, I face another yokel student of the Naruhodo clan. Well, I will vanquish you. And my victory will be fertilizer for the seed of hope atop my head. You have been warned.
Ouchie's over here thinking that his hair will grow back if he beats us in court.
With that, the prosecution calls the witness to the stand.
It's like the stakes are high on both sides in this trial. Prosecution and defense each has much to lose.
A haircut is hardly comparable to raise life.
Yep, it is. It's Hosonaga. And... is fucking Hosonaga and Natsume. That's so good.
Witness, please state your names and occupations for the court.
Chief Inspector Satoru Hosonaga, Imperial Police Bureau. I'm in disguise, obviously, so I can go undetected. And I am, well, the next big thing in books. An author renowned throughout the capital, in fact, yes. soon to be sold out. Satirical I Am a Cat. Sensational success by Soseki Natsume.
Oh my goodness.
Struggling student from the provinces. Please, you needn't be in awe of me.
I needn't?
It's only natural that you'd feel nervous in my presence. But all of you, please relax. Call me Soseki, even.
Yes. What on earth is Soseki-san doing here?
But carefully, Susato. Other fellow knows you from your time in London, doesn't he? He exposes you for who you really are. This will be over before it's begun.
Yes, of course, I know. I presume Soseki-san won't have forgotten about me. I could certainly never forget about him. Although he does seem to have changed somewhat in the 6 months or so it's been since I last saw him.
Yeah, he's grown some self-confidence, which is nice.
As for Inspector Hosonaga, that amazing outfit is hard to believe.
Something on my face.
Well, your glasses for one, although they don't seem to be helping you see. Thank goodness he hasn't recognized me either.
Ah, I suppose it's this disguise, isn't it? I thought that appearing here in the clothes I was wearing at the time would make for a more faithful testimony. Yeah, that sounds like Hosonaga. It's my guiding principle to carry out all testimonies flawlessly. Well, I can appreciate why an Imperial Police Bureau detective might have been... Yeah, I can appreciate why an Imperial Police Bureau detective might have been present. What business did a writer such as yourself have to be at the scene, Soseki-san? Well, you see, I had been asked that day to give a lecture. On the morning of the incident, in the Imperial Yume University's Grand Lecture Hall, no less.
At Yume University?
After the lecture, I had a very pleasant conversation with a researcher from the Medical Science Department. The professor over here, in fact.
With Professor Mikotoba.
Yes, that's right. It was arranged by one of our newspapers. One of our newspapers. Don't you know, we own the newspapers. Wanted some story or other about two former students who'd studied in Great Britain. Of course, being a renowned author, the press never leave me alone. I secretly spy, snapshots, scribble stories, and scupper my privacy. They secretly spy. As you can see, the conversation was written up in this newspaper here. Read it at your leisure, my provincial struggling student friend. I have plenty of copies.
Thank you very much. Practically threw that paper at me.
Her saying that he practically threw the paper at her just reminded me of the time that in Trials and Tribulations where Phoenix throws the phone to Edgeworth and it like spirals across the screen. Anyway, following my interview with the professor. Wait, did you just get another cat that looks identical to your cat that you left in England? Because you left your cat in England, Iris is still looking after that cat. Anyway, following my interview with the professor, the lady in question appeared and made a very unexpected announcement. I should like to go with everyone to see your country's coast. Those were her words. I explained before, Miss Brett was never taken into custody. Continued to work in my laboratory under strict surveillance, of course.
At which utterance, the university immediately contacted the government to seek guidance. And the response was, permit Miss Brett to go as long as a detective accompanies her.
Detective, I'm at liberty to divulge. Was me, Chief Inspector Satoru Hosonaga.
Thereby, the entire party departed cordially for the seaside, it seems.
It was extremely challenging to clear all of the other members of the public from the vicinity of the beach. But fortunately, I'm at peak physical fitness in the moment, so I was able to carry out my duty flawlessly. Still haven't dealt with that, tuberculosis, it seems.
Oh my, Inspector, you... Well, you do have something on your face now.
Unsightly. I do apologize.
Does that mean that you went to the beach too, Father?
Oh no, fortunately I had work to finish off. But unfortunately, of course, it meant that as my assistant, Ray was invited to take my place. Of course, being a renowned author, I didn't like to decline the invitation. But if only I had, I'd never have seen that awful sight. Relentlessly racked by remorse and regret. Well, I must now ask you to present your formal testimony to the court. It's gonna be the guy that is taking pictures of Natsume, isn't it? Sorry, I keep having to pause. Well, I must now ask you to present your formal testimony to the court. Give an account of all that you witnessed on your impromptu excursion to the coast. Of course, Your Excellency. Relentlessly racked by remorse and regret I am. On the day of the incident, I was ordered on a special surveillance assignment in this disguise. I just managed to catch that crab when I suddenly heard a caterwaul from behind me. I ran into the beach hut at once, where I found the pair in question. Yes! Young girl was astride the Englishwoman, dagger in hand as she stabbed wildly. I saw blood on the blade. It proved to me that she'd stabbed the victim multiple times. It's one stab wound, though, right? Only a single wound was identified. Cool. Is that testimony only 3 statements long? Indeed. It does appear from this testimony that both witnesses here present sought the very moment of this heinous crime.
What?
Now, if you will recall, I promised evidence as well. What phrase did I use again? Ah, yes. That was it. Damning evidence.
Have you there, Counsel? So-called fountain pen, is it? Correct, Your Excellency. I found it at the scene whilst examining the body. It appears that in her dying moments, with her final ounce of strength, the victim clutched a piece of evidence that would positively identify her killer.
What?
Your Excellency, if you would cast your eyes over the photographic print of the crime scene once more.
Ah, goodness me. Yes, the victim is clearly grasping something quite deliberately there in her hand. That's right, the fountain pen. I'm sorry my voices are being so inconsistent. I don't know why. Would kindly examine the pen, Your Excellency. Ah! There's initials have been engraved into the ebonite barrel. R.M. Remember me. Initials of the defendant.
No!
This fountain pen will be admitted immediately as critical evidence.
So, have I omitted anything?
I can't look at this. Weird.
Decisive testimony and damning evidence. There's a bright blue sky outside the courthouse today. Perfect weather to ascribe guilt, I feel.
I don't understand. The prosecutor Ouchie of 9 months ago had none of this man's poise.
As for the defense, you may begin your cross-examination now. Naruhodo-san?
Naruhodo. That means... Oh, yes, me.
Another Naruhodo in my courtroom.
Actually, there isn't even a single Naruhodo in your courtroom.
Zenryu Taro, yourself together, please. Wrong voice, but...
Alright, I've seen this countless times as a judicial assistant. Find inconsistencies in the witnesses' testimonies to prove that they're lying somehow. That's all there is to it. That's how a real lawyer would handle a cross-examination. So let's see what I can do.
Oh wow, that was 5 statements? I thought it was only 3. Day of the incident, I was ordered on a special surveillance assignment in this disguise.
Hold it!
In that jaunty disguise?
Correct. Wait, no. And it wasn't the first time I've worn this swimsuit for a dip in the ocean. It's tried and tested. When's the Susato spin-off with her girlfriend? Susato Mikotoba, lesbian attorney. Do what must be done to keep the English woman under surveillance. Those were my orders that day.
And this tried and tested outfit was the answer?
Being able to blend flawlessly into a crowd is an important part of the detective's job. I submerged myself in the salty water, leaving only Mr. Turtle floating inconspicuously on the surface. Mr. Turtle loves the water. Please, please let Mr. Turtle be a real turtle. I mean, the swan on Brett's hat was a real swan, so...
But there was no need for you to blend into the background on this assignment, really, was there?
That made you late to arriving on the scene. I think perhaps you had your priorities wrong.
Perhaps I shouldn't pursue this line of questioning any further at the moment.
I just managed to catch that crab when I suddenly heard a caterwaul from behind me.
Hold it!
You're describing the victim's scream, presumably, Soseki-san?
In more literary terms, you might say it was a scream that could have pierced the heavens. Kia, or the like. Of course, that's just a metaphor. We renowned authors want to describing things so.
Soseki-san wasn't at all like this in England.
Anyway, I spun around the noise, and the beach hut immediately fell under my gaze. Or spun around at the noise, and the beach hut immediately fell under my gaze.
Yes, the beach hut.
The area is popular with government ministers. Many have seaside retreats there for rest and recuperation. Locals are prohibited from entering the area, so it's always very quiet. The beach hut is a simple structure erected as a place for people to change or take refuge from the sun. though, the Englishwoman commandeered the hut for herself, which meant that I was forced to change into my swimwear on the sand.
I imagine that was rather embarrassing for you.
Well, anyway, I tossed the crab aside and headed for the beach hut at a run. Or, in more literary terms, I decrabbed and beetled off hutwise. This case is throwing words at me in orders that in orders that aren't normal. I ran into the beach hut at once, where I found the pair in question.
Hold it!
Wait, by pair, you don't mean to say... But how could that be?
No, you misunderstand. Obviously, I meant the victim and the defendant. Remember me, son.
Oh, it would have been helpful if you could have just said that from the outset.
You jump to conclusions you have to expect to fall flat on your face sometimes.
Dear me, pinning your hopes on such an outside chance. Foolish, very foolish.
It really was an outside chance. I just wish I'd realized that before I said something silly.
So, Inspector, why don't you tell the court how exactly you found the aforementioned pair in the hut?
Well, it was a sorry sight. A really grisly scene. I parted the Norrin curtain hanging in the doorway and stepped inside, only to see the defendant leaning menacingly over the lifeless body of the victim, sprawled onto the sand. Glasses very nearly cracked at the ominous sight that met my eyes.
How thoroughly appalling.
He doesn't appear to be lying here. Well, Soseki-san, can you confirm what Inspector Hosonaga is saying, I wonder?
You'd like a literary man's opinion? Yes. That young girl was astride it. The Englishwoman, dagger in hand, as she stabbed wildly.
Hold it!
Stabbed wildly? You actually saw her do it?
Oh, indeed. The terrible specter, the terrapin inspector, the bloody torrent, the author's torment. Every sight and every sound is still carved in my melancholy memory. That was my impression, at least. As a future literary sensation.
Counsel, what on earth was that shrill, effeminate scream?
Oh, no. No, what are you insinuating? I'm as manly a Japanese man as you.
I might interject here, Soseki-san. Something you said is troubling me. That was my impression, were your words just now, I believe.
So, do you mean to say you're not confident that you really did see what you've described?
No, I mean, yes. I mean, I know what I saw. My ears didn't deceive me when I heard that scream, and my eyes didn't deceive me either. I could describe everything I saw vividly. I could publish it all in tomorrow's newspaper serial.
It sounds as though the next installment of I Am a Cat may take a macabre turn.
This is a fool's errand. The more we press your author friend on what he saw, the more entrenched he's going to become.
Oh dear, how awkward.
Saw blood on the blade. It proved to me that she'd stabbed the victim multiple times.
Hold it!
She was stabbed multiple times. How can you be so sure of that?
Very simply, from the blood on the blade.
The blood?
When I entered the hut, I saw the defendant holding the blade raised up in the air.
Yes,
that's right. I saw that too.
That was not Soseki's voice, but gosh.
Oh,
And I noted that there was blood on the blade already at that point. In other words, the victim had already been stabbed at least once by the time I arrived on the scene.
yes, that's right. I saw it too.
The victim was already holding the defendant's fountain pen in her hand, too. All of which means I can be sure the victim did not die instantly.
Yes, right.
You're slipping into freaking ouchie voice.
Yes, right. I saw it too. Maybe a year in London was too much for him. He sounds like he's forgotten how to speak Japanese.
Logic of your argument is sound, at least. Well, as I said, it's my guiding principle to carry out all testimonies flawlessly.
And perhaps it should have been your guiding principle to protect the victim flawlessly. That's just my personal opinion, of course.
The sass. So, refrain from mocking the witness.
Oh no, I just have so many thoughts whirling around in my head. It's all that I can do to just stand here wide-eyed and mute.
Goodness, my dear, you really must try to calm down.
But how am I supposed to find an inconsistency in what these two gentlemen are saying? I don't see why either of them would have any reason to lie.
Must remember, I think, is that the witness may inadvertently lie at times. For various reasons, a misunderstanding, a mistaken observation, a delusion, even.
A delusion.
Sir, your literally dying disease does not change the fact you didn't protect your client. What's important is that we determine the truth. There's only one sure way to do that.
Yes, with evidence, of course.
Spoken like a true judicial assistant. Witness testimony, yep. This tutorial, you need to listen carefully, yep.
Yes, it's all about inconsistencies.
You've identified a witness's statement that appears to conflict with a piece of evidence. Present the evidence to the witness with X. Yep, thank you.
Alright then. I'll consider the details of the evidence in the court record against each statement to find an inconsistency. I hope I'm up to the task.
You can have the witness repeat their statements as many times as you like. Everyone has to start at the beginning, remember? So those wide eyes are quite forgivable. Besides, there's no one else to defend the poor girl.
You're right. I need to listen to the testimony again from the start.
Only one wound was identified.
Objection!
With that accusatory cry that just welled up from deep inside me, I think I finally understand. Every time Kazuma-sama and Naruhodo-san have stood here at this bench, the stakes have been very, very high indeed.
What is the meaning of that menacing pose, Counsel?
I'd like the witness to clarify something for me.
What? Where? When? How?
Not you, Soseki-san. This query is directed at Inspector Hosonaga.
At me.
In your statement just now, you said that the victim was stabbed multiple times.
Yes, that's right. As I said, when I entered the hut, defendant was already standing over the victim, bloody knife in hand, like a murderous demon.
And yet, that cannot be.
What? Get to the point, please, Counsel. She's got her little book, that's... Okay, I have to, like... I know I said this before, but like, I have to say, this model of Susato is really cute, and I really like its animations. It's got good animations so far.
In the post-mortem report, it clearly states that the victim was stabbed one time only. In other words, Inspector Hosanaga's testimony is clearly flawed. And Soseki-san,
Me?
you claim to have seen Membami-san in the throes of stabbing the victim.
Yes. Yes, I did. Wildly.
But both you and the inspector confirm the same point. That there was already blood on the knife you saw the defendant holding.
Should lose the TV remote again before they left. Oof. Yes, and?
It's quite simple. We know the murder weapon was used to stab the victim only once. Therefore, there's no way there could have been blood on the knife if a single stabbing hadn't already occurred.
True. What exactly is your contention, Counsel? Are you ever going to tell us?
Yes, Your Excellency. There's only one logical conclusion. What Soseki-san in fact saw was not the moment that the defendant stabbed the victim at all, but the moment that the defendant in fact withdrew the blade from the victim's body.
That can't be. Excellent work, Susato. Exploded at them without objection, and proceeded to pull them apart systematically.
Objection! Well, well, this takes me back. Yes, I seem to remember your cousin staged a scene much like this at that trial 9 months ago. A half-witted child with a half-baked objection, attempting to steal the show.
You're right. There are certain similarities. Except that the so-called half-witted child managed to outwit the prosecution, who has only half a head of hair.
Slander. My head is quite adequately dressed. In any case, all this talk of stabbing and withdrawing and multiple wounds, it makes not a jot of difference.
What? Why not?
Because I said so. That's why. Engage your brain, young man. When the accused first plunged the deadly weapon into the victim, that was the fatal blow. And it was at that moment that she had just withdrawn the blade ready for her next strike that the witnesses saw. The knife was already tainted with blood because the accused had already stabbed the victim. All you have successfully shown with your little display is that the mustached author is prone to moments of extravagance.
I'm in agreement with the prosecution. If the defendant was seen wielding the blade at all, it is sufficient grounds for her actions to be viewed with suspicion.
But if she was withdrawing the blade...
And we're back to where we started.
Sorry?
Consider this, young yokel boy. If the student girl is as innocent as you claim, then why would she have pulled the blade from the victim? And with the demon's cold-blooded composure, too. The prosecution demands an explanation, and it had better be good.
Why did Ray pull out the knife?
Yes. Going for the jugular.
What does Father mean by that?
Let the court hear your answer then, Counsel.
The truth is, I don't really know. But I have to come up with a plausible reason here, or we don't have a case. The reason why the defendant pulled the knife blade out of the victim's body was surely so she could...
I mean, save her life is the only one that, like, reads like it would be a good option. But, like, when you're stabbed, you're not supposed to pull the knife out. You're supposed to leave it in until you can get to, like, emergency services. Because it blocks your wound. Save her life.
According to the post-mortem report, the victim's death was not instant.
That's correct. It's thought she would have remained conscious for a short while after sustaining the injury.
Indeed, giving her the time to take hold of this piece of evidence that clearly indicates her killer.
The point is, being a medical research assistant, Membami-san was compelled to act when faced with a wounded victim. Instinctively, she pulled the blade out in an attempt to save Miss Brett's life.
Did you hear that, Your Excellency? It would seem that this is the best we can expect of this young yokel.
Indeed.
Is it just me, or does it suddenly feel much colder in here?
Excellency, if I may. Speak, witness. I would like another opportunity to testify. In respect to the slipshod assertion just put forward by the Yokel Defense Council, I mean.
Slipshod?
Excellent idea, Inspector. Our young yokel Our young yokel hopeful has a modicum of knowledge when it comes to the law, it seems. But in matters of medicine, he appears to possess not one iota of common sense.
Well, Inspector, I'll permit your request. We'll testify again before the court on the subject of the Defense Counsel's assertion. Yes, sir. Do so flawlessly. Pulling a blade from a wound without thinking could cause heavy bleeding. That's basic knowledge that any medical research assistant with an ounce of sense ought to know. In other words, there's no good reason why the defendant would have tried to pull the knife from the victim. Let's not forget that the young student did have a motive for killing the victim. And the victim murdered 9 months ago, Dr. Wilson, was the defendant's highly respected mentor.
Is what you just said true, Inspector? Could pulling a knife from a wound really cause the wound to bleed heavily?
Yes. Think of the weapon itself as a stopper in the wound that prevents excessive blood loss. Till a doctor is ready to provide proper treatment, that stopper shouldn't have been removed.
Oh, I see.
This is why yokels should stay on the farm. Even a quack from some obscure mountain village would have such basic knowledge. Anyone who's ever given someone a little poke with a knife and pulled it out again knows it.
Have you stabbed someone before, Ouchie?
Oh, well, I've never stabbed anyone, you see. Or pulled a blade out of a wound, so...
Of course you haven't. I didn't bring you up to behave like a bandit.
Father, is it true what they're telling me?
Yes, it's basic remedial knowledge for medics. Ray would have been well aware of it. If she were to claim ignorance of such fundamentals, that would prove fatal in many ways.
But then, why would Ray have done it? Could she have pulled out that knife in full knowledge that it would be fatal for Miss Brett?
I don't know.
Ray never once mentioned anything about the knife to me. It seems almost impossible to believe, but... could my friend actually have...
Susato,
Yes?
pull yourself together. We mustn't lose sight of why we're here. Counsel, it's time for your cross-examination.
Oh, yes, Your Excellency.
However, I must warn you that if your cross-examination fails to identify any issue with the established facts, yep. I'll be moving on to my adjudication immediately afterwards.
I understand. Believing in your clients and fighting for their cause until the bitter end. I knew it would be hard, but I had no idea it would be this hard.
Pulling a blade from a wound without thinking could cause heavy bleeding.
Hold it!
You say doing it without thinking could be a problem. Does that mean that if you use due care and attention, it would be alright?
I wouldn't have thought this needed spelling out, really, but... the blade is like a stopper in the wound. Remove it and a serious hemorrhage will occur. In other words, a medic would need to be present before any attempt was made to withdraw the blade. Doing it without thinking would be madness. You just can't do it.
Oh, well, thank you for such a thorough explanation.
You see, Counsel, when you act without thinking, the result is a bloodbath.
Back to the witness's testimony, please. That's basic knowledge that any medical research assistant with an ounce of sense ought to know. Trying to think, like...
Hold it!
In that case, there's an obvious explanation here.
Which is...
Clearly, the defendant, Ray Membami-san, does not possess an ounce of sense.
That's a Phoenix line. That's 100% a Phoenix line. Phoenix would 100% say this. Especially if Larry was his client. What do you think about that, Professor Mikotoba? Not sure you should be labeling your best friend as lacking common sense. Susato, your girlfriend is right there.
Well, I thought it would be better than labeling her as a murderer.
I don't know young people today. If that's friendship, I don't understand it.
Careful, Counsel. A lack of common sense can be a very dangerous thing.
Oh dear. That recoiled on me rather badly.
It's life, I'm afraid. Lesson everyone must learn. Hopefully, you can see now that this is really basic medical knowledge. Being involved in medical research, Membami-san would likely have been aware of it. In other words, there's no good reason why the defendant would have tried to pull the knife from the victim.
Hold it!
But the defendant had suddenly encountered somebody she knew lying on the ground bleeding to death. The sight could have shocked her delicate sensibilities, causing her to remove the blade inadvertently.
I really don't think inadvertent actions can explain this. The woman is a medical research assistant. I can't imagine she would behave so irrationally.
Oh, but irrational behavior is a woman's prerogative, isn't it?
Don't say that. Oh dear, you have a lot to learn about women. Only a small-minded man could have such bigoted views. Thank you, Hosonaga. Thank you.
Oh dear, perhaps I'm letting my male persona take hold a little too much.
Well, have I managed to convey the basics now? That should cover the medical side of the argument. Let's not forget that the young student did have motive for killing the victim.
Hold it! Whatever the motive, it just isn't in Membami-san's nature to do something so awful.
I can't believe Susato is a misogynist. She had both motive and opportunity. That's very hard to argue against.
But you don't know the defendant.
Objection! And you, counsel, do not appear to know the law.
Yes. Evidence is the only way to convince the court of your argument, not feelings.
With this, fledgling to defend her, I'd almost say I pity the accused.
So do I.
Inspector, you'll reiterate your point about the defendant's motive, please. Ah, yes. This Red was in many ways the sworn enemy of Membami-san. And the victim murdered 9 months ago. Dr. Wilson was the defendant's highly respected mentor.
Hold it! Well, yes, that's true. Dr. Wilson recognized Membami-san's talent and offered her the position of assistant, despite her being a woman. She was extremely grateful to him.
Yes, the Englishman appears to have been a very broad-minded individual. Unlike you, Susato. Or Ryutaro, I guess. Dr. Wilson had no time for outdated traditions. He met with opposition, of course, but he believed firmly in Membami-san's abilities. Really, the defendant was in the man's debt, which only serves to prove my point.
This is hopeless. I can't find a single crack in this testimony anywhere. If Ray knew that withdrawing the knife from the wound would threaten Miss Brett's life further, I just can't think of any way to explain why she did it.
Susato, it's times like these when it's especially important to remember the fundamentals. Fundamentals.
The fundamentals?
Evidence is what counts in the courtroom, isn't it?
Of course, but I've been through the court record dozens of times already.
I think perhaps you're forgetting something, though. You needn't take the evidence at face value. You can and must examine it in greater detail, too. Plus, this is your first time playing the role of lawyer in the courtroom. So if you need reminding of the rudiments, you need only ask. I'll do my very best to help.
Examine the evidence in the court record. It's an idea, certainly. What should I do?
I know what to do.
Come to think of it, Kazuma-sama and Naruhodo-san were always turning evidence over and over in their hands. Yes, I need to examine things in greater detail with the A button.
Ah, by the look in your eyes, I see it's coming back to you. Court record again and have a thorough look at everything. Might just find a clue.
Yes, I'll do it straight away.
Take the cap off. Is there blood? Gosh, that art is so good.
If we take off the pen's lid...
Mikotoba wondering what the fucking A button is.
Now let's unscrew the barrel, shall we?
It's gonna be like a gun or some shit. Is this actually, like, what is this? Is this an ink vial? Am I being stupid?
This must be the little reservoir that holds the ink.
I'm dumb. I don't know how fountain pens work. Honestly, I could totally see this series being like, yes, they had a gun inside the pen. Anything is possible after Turnabout Big Top.
This must be the little reservoir that holds the ink.
Yes. Fill it by drawing ink from a bottle up through the nib.
Is something wrong, Father?
So that there doesn't actually appear to be any ink in there, that's all.
Oh yes, you're right. It's pretty much empty. Well, it could be on the verge of running out, I suppose.
Interesting.
The RM initials are clearly engraved here.
The fact that Miss Brett was clinging to this pen in her dying moments is very clearly a message too.
To identify her killer, you mean? To identify your killer. Ray is going to fucking kill you after this, buddy.
Have a good night, Shins. There could be any doubt that this is a key piece of evidence to the case.
There's some sort of emblem here, look. But it isn't a Yume University one.
This belonged to some other organization, I suppose. A business of some kind. It would seem to imply that the pen doesn't in fact belong to Ray. There we go.
This is the newspaper from Soseki-san. There seems to be an important article on the back page as well. Exclusive, deadly poison stolen from Yume Medical Research Laboratory. From Yume's Medical Research. Father, isn't that your lab?
What the? Let me see that. The poison's been stolen?
It's this morning's paper that Soseki-san gave us.
Remote's just gone.
Are you saying you didn't know?
Embarrassing as it is for the head of the laboratory, I didn't. I've not heard any such thing. Where on earth could the reporter have gleaned this information?
Come to think of it, there was no article mentioning this story in our paper this morning, was there?
It's a highly toxic poison we've been working on in the strictest confidence. It put Ray in charge of the project.
Ray, she was managing it.
What's written here is true. She tried to hide the theft from me. Moreover, the details were leaked somehow.
I don't believe it.
To read this article very closely.
Raucous England returnees, tell all. Is this the interview with you and Soseki-san? This is the interview with you and Soseki-san, isn't it, Father? It looks as though it was quite an exchange.
Yes, it became a little over-animated when he was talking about his time in England. The photographer managed to capture the moment his hand karate chopped me in the neck.
I do hope you weren't hurt.
Why is, like, the edge of it cracked here? Okay, so basic knowledge. I want to say that it's presenting the pen here because of the fact that the I'm gonna make a confidence save because I'm very confident in my assertion. I think it's the pen here, because it doesn't have the Yume University emblem on it, and that's the biggest contradiction I can see. Unless it's going for the angle of Ray thought that the knife was poisoned or some shit.
Objection!
Nope, that was wrong.
Your Excellency, I must object to the witness's last statement.
The evidence you've thrust in my direction is supposed to prove your point.
I apologize. I did present it rather more forcefully than I had intended to.
Kindly refrain from these overly exuberant outbursts, Counsel, be they verbal or material.
You really put me in my place there.
Okay, so the other thought is presenting the poison article here.
Objection!
Yeah, okay.
No, there's one possibility. One very good reason why the defendant might have decided to withdraw the knife from the victim's wound.
What?
Ha! The yokel not only has a poor grasp of the law, but also is a poor loser. Tell us then, what possibility do you think you've identified?
It's here, in this newspaper article. An article about a deadly poison having been stolen from a laboratory at Yume University.
Objection!
The victim perished from a stab wound. Poison has no relevance to this case.
But
Ow. Prosecutor Ouchie, you will let the defense speak.
But a newspaper article? The court cannot rely on the kind of hearsay those wretched publications carry.
As for the defense, I'm going to need some tangible basis for your claim. You will indicate to the court precisely what part of the newspaper article mentioned affirms your assertion.
Your Excellency.
yes, of course. Thank you. Ray would never have done something to further endanger Miss Brett's life without just cause. The reason why the defendant pulled the knife out of the victim's body is explained in the article where it says,
Oh, okay. The poison stolen from Yume Medical Research Laboratory following a lecture at Yume by Soseki Natsume on the 11th of August, came to light that a very disturbing incident took place. A deadly poison being secretly developed in the university's forensic science laboratory was stolen. Even the smallest amount entering the body via the mouth or via the wound from a poison-laced blade would prove fatal in minutes. Current methods cannot detect the newly developed chemical. The university would have to be consulted. This poison being developed. Onset of symptoms occurs in minutes, starting with impaired breathing and ending with acute contraction of the pupils prior to death. Such symptoms would be suggestive of this toxin. It's apparently an entirely new synthesis of alkaloids and rumored to have been commissioned by the military. Okay, so that clicks a couple of things into place because Brett's pupils were very dilated. Deadly in tiny quantities.
the article reveals the following property about the poison in question. When the toxin enters the body on a knife laced with the poison, it's rapidly absorbed and causes death in minutes.
Are you suggesting?
If the knife used to attack Miss Brett was laced with this very poison, it would explain why the defendant, Membami-san, would have withdrawn the blade as soon as possible. Yes, the truth is, it was an attempt to stop the poison from entering the victim's body.
What?
Objection! This is complete and utter nonsense.
Not at all. The defendant withdrew the knife blade from the victim's body, not to accelerate the woman's demise, but to save her life, and the prosecution cannot deny this possibility.
Have you not read the post-mortem report? The cause of death was hemorrhage. The word poison appears nowhere in the document.
Well, that's because by acting quickly to remove the blade, the defendant prevented the poison from taking hold.
Objection! No, please. This is clearly desperation. The weasel's last breaking of wind. Poison has nothing to do whatsoever with this case, and I believe the defense is well aware. We have no proof that the information in this wretched newspaper article is at all reliable anyway.
That situation. What the student should have done is wait for medical assistance to arrive. Instead, you claim she suspected poisoning and took the potentially lethal decision to remove the blade. You must have had a strong reason for her suspicions, then, or the argument makes no sense.
Exactly. Well put, Inspector. On what grounds did she do it, yokel?
Why did Ray suspect the stolen poison was involved? If you want grounds, I'll give you the grounds.
What?
You can't possibly.
Your expression, counsel, it would appear those are not empty words. But naturally, as you stand in this courtroom as a lawyer, you must be aware that words alone, empty or not, are of no value to our modern justice system. The court demands evidence.
Yes, Your Excellency. I'm well aware of that. I've seen it many times, from my place at his side in the Old Bailey.
In that case, counsel, you'll present the proof to this. You'll present the proof to the court now. What evidence demonstrates the clear link between this case and the poison in the newspaper article?
I would ask the court to refer to the notes section of the post-mortem report, which reads, extreme meiosis, pupil constriction, was observed in the victim. Clearly, being a yokel with no knowledge of forensic science, I have no idea. So please, do tell me. Presumably, the fact that this condition of the victim was noted in the post-mortem report means that it was an unusual symptom of death.
Well,
under normal circumstances, pupils dilate when someone dies. If there was extreme constriction instead, it's most certainly unusual, yes.
what are you doing, you yokel detective?
In the newspaper article, there's the following information about the stolen poison. Onset of symptoms occurs in minutes, ending with acute contraction of the pupils prior to death.
What?
If the defendant, upon seeing the victim stabbed in the back, happened to notice that the pupils of Miss Brett's eyes had constricted severely.
Yes. As a medical research assistant, she would have suspected poison immediately, without doubt.
Prosecutor Ouchie, I think you'll agree, this is very compelling evidence.
You, yokel student and yokel professor!
Believe the defense has expertly demonstrated a credible reason for the defendant's actions.
No.
Jun Mikotoba? Yes, Your Excellency. I believe you are best placed here to confirm or deny the veracity of the defense counsel's argument. The fuck does yokel even mean? I have no clue. Tell the court the truth about the details reported in this newspaper, please. Pains me to have to admit it. But I'm afraid I don't know. Don't know? The toxin was kept under lock and key in my laboratory, certainly. I was unaware of any theft. You mean to tell me, you mean to tell the court that the reports of this theft are unfounded? No, Your Excellency. Without returning to the laboratory to investigate myself, I couldn't say.
Listen to the bumbling academic. Unaware of the theft of secret state research from his own workplace until he reads it in the newspaper.
Full responsibility for the incompetence of my supervision.
Father.
Pitiful situation for a university professor. You should have more control over your students, rather than allowing them off on killing sprees.
That's totally unfounded. None of this is Professor Mikotoba's fault. It's all my fault. Ray.
Remember me, son. You stand accused here. Outbursts like this will not be tolerated.
But it was me. I was the one who noticed that the poison we were developing had been stolen that day.
What?
And so you knew. I'd been placed in charge of overseeing the project. It was the day the professor and Soseki-san were interviewed together for the newspaper. And that's when I noticed that some of the poison was missing. Just a tiny amount it was.
You let me know immediately.
I was scared. The whole project was supposed to be confidential, but some of the toxin had somehow been taken. And so I decided I'd try to get it back before anyone else found out. Because I had a very good idea who the thief was. The thief? You don't mean... Yes, of course. It was that dainty English woman.
It's Giselle Brett.
And that's why I decided to join the little group of people going to the seaside. Inside the beach hut, I confronted Miss Brett. But she just sat on a stool in the back of the hut, and smiling sweetly at me as if she knew she was untouchable. I know it was you who stole the poison. Well now, whatever do you mean? And then she suddenly got to her feet, before falling to her knees in front of me and collapsing on the floor. That's when I saw the knife in her back. I couldn't understand what had just happened. And then, a moment later, I was seized with fear. The pupils of her eyes they'd shrunk to tiny pinpoints.
Don't believe it. In other words, realized that the victim was suffering the effects of the stolen poison.
My mind started racing. I hadn't seen anything past Miss Brett's lips while I'd been with her. Which left only one possible way for the poison to have entered her body. On the blade of the knife in her back.
That train of thought was what spurred you to withdraw the blade.
Yes. If the amount that had entered her bloodstream was small enough, she might still have a chance. That's what I hoped. Really, I'm so sorry for staying silent all this time.
Attempt to hide the truth of what happened is not something that can be overlooked. However, I have duly noted the courage with which you confessed in the end.
Thank you, Your Excellency. It's barely perceptible, but I do think the balance has shifted a little here, in this courtroom now.
Objection! Your Excellency, do not be deceived. The victim just collapsed before your eyes, you say? Well, remember me, son, if that is the case, perhaps you could explain how Miss Brett came to be stabbed.
Well,
You have no answer because the simple truth is that you stabbed the victim motivated by revenge.
Objection!
but you have no conclusive evidence to prove that assertion, do you?
Oh, I have evidence, and it's very much conclusive.
What is the prosecution counsel up to? It was brief, but he hesitated for a moment there. I'm almost sure of it.
Produce the aforementioned evidence at once, Prosecutor Ouchie.
Perhaps some praise is due, young yokel student.
What?
I'd imagine there would be no need for me to submit this evidence, so I knowingly withheld it. But you brought this on yourself.
What the? Could a more damning shot exist? Cruelty in the air on that beach is almost palpable.
This evidence, more than any other, reveals the true extent of the accused's murderous nature. For it shows the precise moment that Memba-mi-san plunged her dagger into the victim's back.
No, that's not true, no. I don't believe it.
Order, order, order. To the defense, is it you who was responsible for that shrill scream that just pierced my courtroom?
Perhaps his voice has yet to break. These yokels are slow of mind and slow to mature.
I'll show you who's slow to mature.
Now, Susato's starting to show her face here. It's often said that a picture is worth 1,000 words. Here we have ample proof. I was about to say it could easily be pulling the knife out as well. Court will accept this extremely cogent photographic print as evidence. It's even labeled as incriminating photograph.
I can't believe he's had a photograph like that up his sleeve the entire time.
Where is this picture being taken from? Is it like behind this? Behind her dress? Or is it from the crack in the wall here?
It's such a stark image. I'm genuinely lost for words. Wait a minute. I don't understand. How did you... I mean, who took that photograph? Ray.
Objection! That's of no importance here. Stop trying to divert attention.
Oh,
Objection!
that's an absurd thing to say. It's crucially important. Whoever took this photographic print was a witness to Miss Brett's death. The court must be allowed to hear this person's testimony.
Yeah.
I will pull the defense's demand. Prosecution will reveal the identity of the person responsible for taking this photograph at once.
Well, I'm afraid I can't do that.
Pardon?
You see, this print arrived at the Imperial Police Bureau headquarters by express post yesterday. But there was nothing to indicate the sender's name or address. The provenance of the print is unknown.
And you're trying to admit it as evidence, buddy. Goodness.
Are we to understand then, counsel, that in full knowledge of the fact that this photograph has the murkiest of origins, you nevertheless believe it's fit for submission as evidence in the Supreme Court?
First produced that print before, I noticed that you hesitated for a brief moment. Because you knew that it wasn't completely reliable evidence, didn't you?
Silence, you yokel student and blabbering professor. What matters is the blatant truth that this print so eloquently expresses.
But the defendant has already admitted to pulling the blade from the wound. Clearly, this isn't the moment that the knife was plunged into the victim's back, but
The moment it was withdrawn. Don't waste the court's time with your ramblings.
Indeed. Without knowledge of who produced this print, we have no means of verifying the claim. Indeed, we're going to stop your perfectly reasonable line of questioning. The scene it captures is without a doubt the most compelling evidence presented to the court. Defense is unable to shed any further light on the matter, or if the defense is unable to shed any further light on the matter, I believe the conclusion is clear.
oh no.
Susato. That was not your voice. Susato, this is the time for you to fight. If what you've established so far is true, then there can be no doubt. This photograph shows the moment that Ray withdrew the blade from the victim.
Yes, we just need to prove that somehow.
You'll have plenty of time to rue your defeat on the slow train back to the provinces. And to rue the day you came up against Taketsuchi Ouchi in a court of law.
And if I can't determine who took this photograph, then the trial's going to come to an end. There must be a clue somewhere. There must be some way of working out who took it.
Well, counsel?
Your Excellency. The burning question is who took that photograph, and the truth is...
I know, but I don't know if it's gonna let me, point the finger at the right person at this point.
This isn't about whether I can or can't come up with the answer now. I simply have to. The identity of the person who took this dramatic photographic print is, I assure you, something the defense can and will reveal.
What? No, you can't possibly. But, as you so boldly claim that you can, please do enlighten us.
Unfortunately, I'm unable to present a name.
How utterly underwhelming. Did you really believe you could?
However, I'm able to present evidence. The defense has a piece of evidence that reveals important details about the photographer's identity.
What?
Well then, counsel, present your proof to the court. Which piece of evidence do you claim reveals something about the identity of the mystery photographer? Oh, it's because of the crack. Okay, I see it. I didn't see the crack in the right side of this, but...
Take that!
Is that? A newspaper again. Rackus England returnees, tell all.
It's not the headline that's relevant here, Your Excellency. It's the photograph. If you look at it closely, you'll notice that there are some white lines on the right-hand side.
Ah, yes indeed. Already caught my eye as it happens.
Heh, what of it? A shadow of some kind, presumably, from the branches of a tree or the like.
There are no trees growing inside my laboratory at the university, I can assure you.
Now, if you look closely at this photograph...
Good gracious.
Yes, exactly the same pattern of lines is present on this photograph, too.
Objection! Well, that tells us nothing. Yes, it's a shadow of some kind, definitely, from the branches of a tree.
There wouldn't be any trees growing inside a hut at the beach, Council.
Yeah.
What's quite remarkable about it is that the two patterns are absolutely identical. How could such an extraordinary similarity have transpired?
The curious matching pattern that appears on both photographic prints is a result of...
Camera defect. It's a cracked lens.
Obviously, it must be due to a problem with the camera used to take the photographs.
With the photographic device?
Yes. We can confidently say that the camera's lens must be scratched. The scratched lens causes unwanted lines to appear on every print taken with the device.
In short, the two photographs under consideration here were taken with the same camera.
Yeah. But there must be hundreds of such camera devices here in the capital. It would be utterly impossible to identify the owner of this particular one.
Objection!
I think you're forgetting, Prosecutor Ouchie, that one of the photographs featured in a newspaper article.
A newspaper? Ah,
That's right. The author of that article is the mystery witness to this crime.
what? Ah!
So why you were so-called a Rackus England returnee?
What are you yelling about? You've already testified.
It's me memo. Or... Any memo? Many memo. It's many memo. I tell you, many memo. Me, mo.
Soseki-san, what was that? Did you say many memo?
Ever since I returned to Japan, a reporter from the Shoyu News has been hounding me, following my every move. A reporter by the name of Wrighton Many Memo. I didn't think Many Memo could get worse, but Wrighton Many Memo. Yes, hounding me from dawn till dusk.
Now that he mentions it,
Secretly spy, snapshots, scribble stories, and scrooper my privacy.
could that same reporter be...
Camera to the left of him, a notebook to the right. There I am. I was about to make this same damn joke. There I am, stuck in the middle with Wrighton Many Memo. You're saying that this picture was taken by Many Memo, yes. My lord, your excellency, Esquire. Sir, find this newspaper reporter at once and bring him to my courtroom. We'll adjourn for a short recess in the meantime.
Oh, yes, Your Excellency.
As you say, Your Excellency.
And one more thing. I want this knife, the murder weapon, examined for traces of poison. Solicit the assistance of the Imperial University's medical department for the task. Understood?
Yeah. Memo.
Okay, so real quick, I'm gonna hit you with a quick BRB. I will be back in a bit. Sorry about that. Gosh, I'm starting to run low on water already.
I'm so sorry, Susato. I should have told you about the toxin. Ray.
You have a strong sense of responsibility, I know. That's why you decided to shoulder the burden alone.
No, that's not it at all. I was scared of my failure coming to light, that's all. And so I hope to retrieve the substance from the Englishwoman before anyone found out. Before the trial started, do you remember what you said, Susato? That you had no doubt in your mind about my innocence. That you'd stand by me to the last. I remember. And yet I didn't deserve your trust in me. I hid important details from you, Susato. I completely betrayed your faith in me. Hit me, Susato. I deserve it. No, in fact, throw me to the floor. No, that's too good for me as well. Drag me through the city streets. I'm no better, you know. Oh? Even though in my heart I knew that you'd pull the knife blade from Miss Brett's back. There was just a brief moment when, in my mind, I doubted you. Susato. I'm sorry. After I stood here and promised you that I'd stand by you, and always be on your side, I betrayed your faith in me too. And as such, I failed you as a lawyer.
Susato throw.
Oh no, no.
This situation has taught both of you a valuable lesson. Placing your unbridled faith in another is no easy task.
Yes, Father. That fact has certainly struck home. And now I really regret giving Ryunosuke shit for it in the last game. Which is why I can see more clearly now. So, Ray. Yes? Can you find it in your heart to forgive me? Oh, Susato. You know you'll always be a gallant, dashing lawyer in my eyes now. Oh, Ray.
Like, I swear, they are intentionally writing these two to be very gay together. Like, it is a conscious choice at this point.
I was so scared, you know, when it happened. I didn't know what was going on. The Englishwoman was sitting at the back of the hut, listening to what I was saying. I know it was you who stole the poison. Well now, whatever do you mean?
This doesn't even feel like the only gay pairing either. Yeah, I mean, Ryunosuke and Kazuma from the first game were pretty damn gay together.
And then, a moment later, she suddenly got to her feet. Before collapsing on the floor in front of me, with a knife in her back.
Oh, are you meaning in, like, in this game as well?
It all happened right before my eyes. And you were the only people in the hut at the time.
Haven't met the second guy. I hate having to stop every couple minutes to clear my throat.
That's right. Just Miss Brett and myself. There was no one else. And so I just don't understand how she could have possibly have been stabbed like that.
Through the wall? Great mystery indeed.
I still can't believe it happened. That's why I just couldn't bring myself to speak up. It'll be alright. However it happened, and whatever really went on by the sea that day, I promise you that I'm going to prove everything you've said you saw is true.
Spoken like a true Mikotoba. Now I think we should discuss what's coming up in the trial, don't you? We don't have much time. Let's make sure that we have our facts in order.
Yes, I expect the poison is going to come under close scrutiny in the upcoming proceedings. The police should have hopefully identified it on the blade by now. The trouble is, it's a completely new laboratory-synthesized blend of alkaloids. The police won't have any way of testing for it. Oh, I see.
Yes, without this chemical reagent, it's impossible to detect the toxin. I just happen to have this in my pocket.
Chemical reagent?
Sent a colleague of mine off with some earlier to deliver it to the police headquarters. And perhaps you should have some as well, though, just in case. What's the matter, Susato? You're suddenly very quiet.
It's this newspaper article. Exclusive, deadly poison stolen from Yume Medical Research Laboratory. I'm wondering how the information got out, given that it was a government secret. It was all the Englishwoman's doing. What? It was when the professor and Soseki-san were being interviewed at the laboratory. That so-called English lady swanned in, and without any compunction said to Professor Mikotoba, "Oh, Professor, surely your guest would love to hear about your work on that substance there."
In a very awkward position, to be frank. Soseki-san's curiosity had been piqued. Had little choice but to give him a cursory introduction.
So then, Soseki-san knew about the poison.
Yes, it's highly likely. The reporter who was writing up the story about us would have caught a glimpse of the toxin, too.
This many memo-san. By the way, did that reporter join you all when you went to the beach? Oh, no, I don't remember the reporter being there.
Indeed. He shouldn't have been. I very much doubt anyone would have wanted him there.
Oh?
The criminal had been given permission by the authorities to bathe by the seaside. Soseki-san pointed out that inviting a reporter might be problematic, so the man was sent back to his office.
Yet he obviously didn't go back. He secretly followed the party to the beach and took this very candid photograph. And then presumably he posted it anonymously to the police. Ah.
Yes, that must be what happened.
Counsel? Just heard that the new witness is now ready to testify. Trial is about to resume. Please proceed into the courtroom at once.
It's time to steel ourselves once again, then. Defense attorney Ryutaro Naruhodo.
Yes. Ray has put her faith in me now and told me everything. So I can't let her down. I have to prove what she's telling the court is true. I have to prove what really happened that day.
I hereby call this court to order. We reconvene to continue the trial of Mr. Ray Membami. Miss Kitarachi, have you summoned the new witness?
Before I address that question, Your Excellency, I have some very important news to share.
Oh?
What news? And why does he look so happy about it?
During the recess, with the collaboration of Professor Mikotoba's laboratory at Yume University, the police re-examine the knife that was used to end Miss Giselle Brett's life.
Excellent. I admire your rapid handling of the matter.
Oh, too kind, Your Excellency. Too kind. I was merely carrying out your instructions, of course.
The reagent delivered to the police headquarters by rickshaw, so it would be there in good time.
But judging
by the man's swagger, I fear we might need to brace ourselves for the inevitable.
And, Counsel, what were the results?
This dagger, which was so cruelly used to end the life of the victim, has no trace of poison anywhere along its blade.
What? Are you sure about that?
I would stake the reputation of the police on it.
The reagent, the test is extremely simple. Couldn't have made a mistake.
In short, the accused's feeble excuse earlier has been utterly destroyed. Ugh. Now, the prosecution is ready to call the new witness.
Okay, so... I guess the way that this is probably going to go is that she was stabbed with the pen, and the pen had poison in the ink reservoir. And so it injected her with the poison, then they stabbed her with the knife to cover it up. Ah yes, that must be the victim's blood.
Oh dear. Blood is never a pretty sight, is it? I'm having to fight the urge to run under a hot tap and get it clean.
Always been fastidious? Fastidious about cleanliness, haven't you?
I think this is something else, Father.
Nothing else to examine here?
The label appears to be written in a foreign language that I don't know.
It's German, so your knowledge of English is going to be of little help here, I'm afraid.
Couldn't you just have written medicine on it in Japanese? Then we'd all be able to read it.
But it's not medicine, it's a reagent for detecting poison. German is the international language of medicine, my dear. Yes, I can certainly see the merit in labeling the bottle in Japanese. I'm not sure medicine would be entirely appropriate.
Now, the prosecution is ready to call the new witness.
Ah, the newspaper reporter who managed to capture a photograph of the crucial moment. Good. Very well, officer. Bring in the witnesses. The new witness.
No trace of poison on the knife. But if that's really the case, how could the toxin have entered the victim's body?
Don't lick your pencil.
Witness, please state your name and occupation for the court.
Write in many memo. The show you news. I'm what people like to call a Giorno. Giorno?
What's a giorno, Father? Do you know?
Simply a contraction of journalist, or it's just simply a contraction of journalist. I'm there when the news breaks, putting pen to paper to catch those scoops so they're in print in the next morning. They don't call me the hero of the Herald for nothing. Nice guy of news.
Oh, so, it was you who took this photograph, was it?
Well, well, what have we here?
I'm sorry?
Oh, brace yourselves, people. Many Memo senses a scoop in the offing. Female student up to foul play, defended by curiously handsome young lawyer in the Supreme Court. The readers will lap this up. We'll set it above the fold at 72 point in a 5-leg format for the morning edition.
Huh?
Right then, let's start with your name. This guy's voice is gonna be almost identical to Sholmes's, but Sholmes isn't in this case, so...
Oh, it's Ryutaro Naruhodo.
This newspaper is gonna somehow find its way over to, Ryunosuke, isn't it? Next, what made you want to become a lawyer?
Well, I wanted to reform our country's legal system, I suppose.
Taro has suddenly become very ambitious, I see.
I just borrowed Kazuma-sama's dream for a while.
By the way, my name is Taketsuchi Aochi. That's Ta-Ke-Tsu-Shi-Aochi. The so-called Dark Horse of the Supreme Court. My objections strike fear into every defense lawyer's heart.
No, the readers won't buy that.
What?
Yes. Yes. What this court demands to know is whether or not you were responsible for the taking of this picture. It was delivered anonymously to the Imperial Police Bureau only yesterday. Gosh, I get the feeling that I'm gonna need to put in between game or games in this. Yeah, I wouldn't be a journo if I didn't. Wow, I wouldn't be a journo if I didn't click quick when presented with a scoop like that, now would I? Sometimes stories call out to me, sometimes I have to chase them down, but either way, you've got to be fast. Fast legs to run with and fast hand to write with. It's no good if you don't note it down, as I always say. That's what I call my many-memoism.
Many-memoism?
Ah yes, I remember your face. At that day when you were interviewing myself and Soseki-san. Yes, right. That was me, Many Memo again. You were supposed to be going back to the Shoyu news offices after our meeting. But the scoop is, I didn't. Because that Englishwoman's words had piqued my journalistic interest.
Miss Brett's words.
A criminal left to do as she pleases, just because she happens to be a British citizen. It's horse dung. This country's judiciary is rotten to the core. The Supreme Court's rulings aren't worth the paper they're written on. The police are just imperial pawns.
Stay your tongue, young man. There are complex political issues at play.
Huh. Well, anyway, I quickly jotted down those words she said in my memo pad. Are you... Ow. Ow. I just got like a muscle spasm in my shoulder. Why is it always this game specific, like the Ace Attorney games that do this to me? These writers sure are having fun with the puns. Sachi, have you seen any of Spirit of Justice, Ace Attorney 6? Because, goddamn, that game has some absolutely batshit crazy puns for the names. I haven't played Spirit of Justice, but I have seen some of the names from Spirit of Justice. Are you ready? I'll read it out. It's all here. Right, here it goes. I should like to go with everyone to see your country's coast. A serious criminal going on some junket. The people need to know about this. That's why I decided to sneak after them. To get to the woman's story so I could hammer her in the press. To say that you did indeed witness it firsthand. I'm seen portrayed in this photograph. Oh yes, I saw it with my very own journo eyes. From start to finish, through the viewfinder of my trusty camera. Thank you, Memo-san. Will now give a formal testimony before the court. State exactly what it was that you witnessed of the events surrounding Miss Brett's death. The beach hut was made of shoddy old reed screens, so there were plenty of gaps I could see inside through. The English woman was sitting on a stool when the student girl came in and started arguing with her. Seconds later, the girl pulled out a knife, throwing the Englishwoman to the floor as she stabbed her in the back. My smoldering journo spirit burst into flames. Quick as a flash, I whipped out my camera, ready to click. I pulled apart the rough weave, one of the screens, and poked the lens through for the perfect shot.
Reed screens, you say?
Right. You can see them clearly enough in that great shot I snapped. The hut walls were just screens made of coarsely woven reeds. Yes, it allows the breeze to pass through and bring some relief from the summer heat. And it was a breeze from me to poke my camera through and see the whole thing hotting up.
Ignoring for the time being the appalling invasion of privacy involved, did you witness everything that happened from the moment the defendant entered the hut?
Oh yes, I saw it. The whole thing from start to finish.
And you say that you took the photograph through the gap in one of the screens.
Luckily for me, they were pretty shoddily woven. I pulled the reeds apart and thrust my lens of my camera through the gap. Would I get away with it, or would I be seen? It was the gamble of a lifetime.
A tenacity of purpose that's considered admirable in a journalist, I suppose.
Run a risk one day, run a scoop the next. That's Memoism in a nutshell. Last. It would appear we have a genuine witness to this wicked crime. Evidence and testimony are extremely compelling. I believe we may be close to a verdict.
No.
Wonderful news, Your Excellency. Wonderful.
Alas, it cannot be denied that this testimony begs one very large question.
What question?
Exclusive news. A startling photograph. All the makings of an exceptional story for the reporter. Why, then, was the story never published?
Oh, that's right.
It seems clear to me that there are circumstances at play here that are yet to be understood.
More pathetic excuses.
Very well then, counsel. Proceed with your cross-examination.
Yes, Your Excellency. There's more to this reporter than meets the eye. He is keeping something about this case very close to his chest.
Knowing Ace Attorney, that's probably literal. He probably has an extra print that he hasn't taken a picture of. Or that he's taken a picture of. He hasn't presented to the court. The beach hut was made of shoddy old reed screens, so there were plenty of gaps I could see inside through.
Hold it!
What made you want to see what was happening inside the beach hut in the first place?
Call it journo instinct. Can you think of a better reason?
Oh, I don't know. Perhaps because there was... perhaps as well as there being a proven criminal, the person inside was a young woman.
I see where you're going with this. Brace yourselves, people. He's painting the journo as a voyeur.
It's hardly slander, sir. You had a camera and you were taking pictures without the woman's knowledge.
Nope, you've got it all wrong, little student boy.
Sorry?
To my mind, all that was inside that hut was a scoop. Nothing more, nothing less. Scoops know no gender, man or woman, it's all news. That's not even many memoism, it's basic journalism.
If only the courtroom was as indiscriminate.
Right, so if that's all buttoned up, can we move on? Tell the court then, witness, what sight befell your eyes when you looked inside the hut? A sight that vindicated my journo instinct, that's what. When I pulled back the reeds, I could see it all as clear as day. The Englishwoman was sitting on a stool when the student girl came in and started arguing with her.
Hold it!
And so you actually saw Membami-san entering the hut.
Also, I just realized, Writes in many memo, RM. That's the initials that are on the pen. Yup, and she was raging. Raging like my journo spirit.
And the argument you mentioned, what was that about exactly?
You stole it. I didn't steal it, that kind of thing.
Talking about the poison, I suppose.
The student girl walked right up to the Englishwoman and really started laying into her. I mean, if she'd laid into her any more, there would have been eggs. And should have been an author. His descriptive talents are wasted on journalism. But the student's rantings fell on deaf ears, like a Japanese person listening to English for the first time.
He really ought to work on his similes first, though, to be honest.
Anyway, the point is that woman in the dock was mightily angry. What the fuck does what mean, Sachi? What part of that? The part about laying eggs?
And her temper,
wow.
Excuse me, let me clear my voice. And her temper finally got the better of her, it seems. Dear me.
Which was the climactic moment that I caught on film. Seconds later, the girl pulled out a knife, throwing the Englishwoman to the floor as she stabbed her in the back.
Hold it!
do you swear before this court that you actually saw the precise moment when the stabbing took place?
Ha! The precise moment? I didn't see just that. I saw the whole hellish scene play out, from start to finish. Oh gosh, I'm starting to get lightheaded. It really just goes to show how out of practice I am. Sorry, I need a sec, like... You know that feeling that you get when you're like... when you're getting out of breath, where like you can kinda feel the numbness in your hands a bit? That's happening.
I have here a simple plan of the beach hut. Perhaps you could use it to explain to the court exactly what you witnessed.
Right you are. It's all here on my memo pad. When I first peered into the hut, I'm sure that the Englishwoman was on this stool in the back of the hut here.
Yes, the accused's own testimony confirmed that.
She just sat at the back of the hut, smiling sweetly, is what I've noted down.
It's my turn to testify now. Try not to interrupt. Then, the next moment I was watching, or as I was watching, the evil student girl entered the hut. After a while, the pair of them ended up in the middle of the hut, arguing furiously. The Englishwoman went for the student, but the girl dodged out of the way. And in a flash, plunged the knife into her adversary's back as the two passed each other. What you describe as a grim crime indeed. Never sugarcoat the truth. That's what many memoism says.
By the way, Mini-Memo-san, whilst you were watching that terrible scene unfold before your eyes through the gap in the screen, did it not occur to you to try to prevent the tragedy rather than capture it on film?
Journos have to be observers. We can't get involved. That's a raison d'etre? 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 That's French, I assume.
And so you didn't converse with Miss Brett at all?
Obviously not. An observer always remains on the outside looking in. Reason of being?
And that's something to be proud of, is it?
Your Excellency, if I may. That's not your voice. Please, do not steal my voice, Mr. Mikotoba. It's unbefitting. Yes, Professor. I'll have you sentenced to death for that. Witness last, expertly phrased, I think the witness's last expertly phrased statement should perhaps be added to his formal testimony.
Father, what are you...
I'll grant the defense's request. Memo-san, you will supplement your formal testimony with the aforementioned statement. Sorry I keep having to pause, like, at this point, I'm not even, like, having to pause to clear my throat. I'm having to pause because, like, I am starting to get lightheaded. I think another reason why I'm getting so easily winded is because I've basically been doing Susato's voice this entire stream. It's been good practice, though. Memo-san, you will supplement your formal testimony with the aforementioned statement. Well, nihilism is the foundation of many memoism, but I'll gladly prove that my words aren't meaningless. I never once set foot in the hut, nor spoke with the Englishwoman. It was only I was there only as an observer. Yeah, I get the feeling, like, as much as I want, like, as much as I am enjoying this a lot because it's new Ace Attorney stuff and I, like, Susato the magical girl, as much as I am enjoying this, I'm probably gonna have to, like, load up on break streams in this game as much as I don't want to. Because if this, like, if I keep getting lightheaded and short of breath while doing this, I will need to take breaks.
Hold it!
Really? You didn't set foot inside the hut at all. Are you quite sure about that?
I think you may have the wrong impression of me. We're talking about a murder scene here. My nerves were stretched to the breaking point already.
Oh, I see. You were scared. Maybe I did have the wrong impression of you, yes. It was all
It was all I could do to stifle a scream and hold my hands steadily enough to snap the shot. You should have summoned help before thinking of your camera. Many-memoism and humanism don't always agree. And most of the time, in those instances, many-memoism comes out on top. As a sculptor of stories, sometimes I have to be cruel for my art. Yes, that's spot on.
Surely he's making all this up.
Seems to have spied the whole affair from start to finish. If true, his testimony is devastating.
But it does seem as though he's holding something back, doesn't it?
If that's how you feel, I suggest that you trust your instincts and press him on everything he's said. You've no doubt seen done many times before in your role as judicial assistant.
Yes, I have. I've seen witnesses like this pressed often. I know exactly what to do.
Hold it!
Smoldering journo spirit burst into flames as quick as a flash. I whipped out my camera ready to click. My smoldering journo spirit burst into flames. Quick as a flash, I whipped out my camera ready to click.
The court is fully aware of your desire to capture the incident on film, I'm sure. But why then did you choose to post the photograph anonymously to the police?
I'm afraid I don't understand a word that's coming out of your mouth.
I'm asking why, as a journalist, you decided to not make a story out of the incident.
Think of me as a sculptor who makes art out of the sordid, private details of other people's lives. But I never discuss my own personal life on principle. I mean, that's basic many-memoism.
It's not something to boast about.
No doubt your burning desire to see the truth exposed and justice done was what motivated you.
That's it. It's brilliant. My burning desire to see something or other exposed.
There has to be a good reason why he didn't think to write an article about what he saw, though.
Your own admission, you were outside the hut. How then did you manage to take the photograph? Ah, yes, that. I'm glad you asked. I pulled apart the rough weave of one of the screens and poked the lens through for the perfect shot.
Hold it!
But the two women inside didn't notice?
Ha! Obviously not. If they had, where would I be right now? In jail, that's where.
Which you'd think would make you reflect on what you did, or on what you were doing.
No, a journo's job is to collect little snippets of life as unobtrusively as possible. Leave nothing but footprints, take nothing but photos. Yes, that's spot on.
Did he just make that up?
The point is, the witness risked life and limb to obtain this photograph. And this photograph reveals the whole truth. There's nothing more to be said.
Okay, never once set foot in the hut, nor spoke with the Englishwoman. I was only there as an observer. This has actually kind of got me stumped. I don't see the, Never once set foot in the hut, nor spoke with the Englishman. I was only there as an observer. See, this makes me think, like, part of me wants to send this because it's got the emblem on it that he's got on his armband, but there's also the part that this feels like a later revelation sort of deal. But...
Objection!
Okay.
Many Memo-san, until now, I've had a firm belief that newspapers are in the business of uncovering and publishing the truth.
You're spot on there. The press doesn't lie, which is why I'm proud to wear the emblem of the Shio News on my arm. Or show you news. In a way, that's more many memoism.
And sadly, though, it seems the journalists who wrote for those papers don't always share the same passion for the truth.
What are you suggesting with these recriminatory words, Counsel?
Many Memo-san, do you recognize this fountain pen?
Ugh.
This pen was found at the scene of Miss Brett's death. In fact, the murdered victim was gripping it in her hand as she died.
What are you?
If you look at the barrel of the pen, you'll notice that its owner's initials are engraved there. RM.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up, Counsel. The initials of the accused. Remember me.
Is it a coincidence, I wonder, that your initials are also RM?
No.
Writen, many memo. RM.
That's horse dung. Can't you see? One of the central tenets of many memoism is being a pencil user.
And yet, as the court will clearly be able to see, on your right hand, there's a very obvious blue ink stain.
Appear that you've made that you must have rather carelessly left it somewhere recently. Your favorite fountain pen, that is. Horsey horse dung!
Many Memo-san, is it not the case that before she died, you met with Giselle Brett in that beach hut?
Objection! Why should we listen to this absurd nonsense? It's nothing but another excuse.
Exactly. Show You News will stand behind me all the way. I deny everything. There must be as many people with the initials RM as there are stars in the night sky.
The defense has neither the time nor inclination to count every star in the sky. And there's no need anyway, because this pen has more to tell. Yes, there's another clue.
Also, I like this pose. This is a good pose. Her smug ass.
A clue that undeniably proves who its owner really is.
Susato smug. In that case, Counsel, defense will now show the court where this alleged clue lies.
Of course, Your Excellency. The clue on this fountain pen that clearly reveals its owner's identity is...
Got it!
As well as the initials, there's also an emblem on this fountain pen. An emblem that you will of course recognize, Memo-san.
Goodness me. It's the emblem of the Shoyu News.
In other words, the owner of this pen is an employee of the Shoyu News, whose initials are RM. And suddenly the stars in the night sky don't seem so numerous, do they? Well, Memo-san, how do you respond?
No! Order! Order! Explain yourself, witness. So, this is how the mighty Supreme Court works, is it? Using coercive tactics to have well-meaning citizens reveal harmless secrets.
I've used nothing but honest tactics.
Alright then. Fine. I won't try to hide it anymore. Yes, not long before that grim tragedy unfolded, I, a Shoyu News reporter, on behalf of the public, conducted an interview with the Englishwoman.
An interview?
You never mentioned this before.
When exactly was this?
As I said, it was before that evil little student girl showed her face in the hut. It couldn't have lasted more than 2 or 3 minutes. That's all. It was just a brief exchange. But it came to nothing, and as many memoists say, the people don't pay their dues for unworthy news. However insignificant you deem it to be, this court cannot overlook the meeting between yourself and the victim. Let's find now, under oath, about the Somehow I read that as pretense nature, about the precise nature of this meeting and what transpired. Got it. Yes, alright, but on one condition.
Condition?
In all good conscience, I couldn't speak out alone about this. You need to call back the earlier witnesses, Soseki Natsume-san.
Soseki-san?
Oh yes, according to my notes here, that man has a secret of his own. And brace yourselves, because it's not a harmless one. It's big.
What?
What?
Many memoism states that one man's secret is every other man's front page story. Well, I'll grant the witness's request in this instance. Officer, summon the earlier witness back to the stand.
Soseki-san, hiding something?
Okay. And as much as I hate to do it to you, I'm gonna end slightly early. Did he stab an old lady on the street in London? Honestly, could you imagine if Could you imagine if that was the thing that he was saying? He comes out and he's just like, what I know is that this man committed a murder in London. He stabbed, what was her name? It was Olive something. I don't remember that case very well. But yeah, give me a sec. We'll find someone to raid. Exclamation point Discord if you want to join the Discord. Exclamation point socials if you want to follow the VOD's channel or my Blue Sky or whatever. Otherwise, give me just a sec. Okay, who's available? Critiga is streaming. So yeah, thank you all so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed. Okay. I want to stream more of this tomorrow. I will stream more of this tomorrow if I am physically able to. If I, like, I'll have a backup plan just in case, but, like, if I start stream and I start getting super, super winded again, then we might need to switch over to something else. But, you know, we'll figure it out. But yeah, thank you all so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed. I hope to see you again tomorrow for whatever I end up streaming tomorrow. Probably more of this, as long as I'm able. But other than that, I guess, have a good one, and take care.